guys are realizing, or if you guys have this realization on and off that I was never truly loved, they were just using me, please understand that, awareness is not betrayal. That's who they are. Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing good and taking good care of themselves. So today I'm going to talk about pathological enmeshment, the covert trauma no one sees. And before I get going, I would request you all to like, share, subscribe the channel, hit the notification bell so you guys are updated whenever we put out new content. So if you were raised by a narcissistic parent, chances are that you weren't allowed to develop a separate identity. You had to think the way how they think and they approve. You had to function as a part of a system and not your own unique individual self. You may have been, praised for being the good child. I mean, those are just crumbs. But yes, I mean, you may have experienced or you may have, been praised for being the good child, the helper, or the emotional support system. But to tell you honestly, that wasn't love or genuine appreciation. That was pure enmeshment. And today we are going to explore why it happened, how it affects you, and how it was never your fault. So let us briefly understand what enmeshment is. Enmeshment is a breakdown of emotional boundaries between parent and child. It's when a child is used to fulfill the unmet emotional needs of the parent. The child becomes a surrogate partner, a pseudo husband, pseudo wife, a therapist, or even an emotional crutch for their narcissistic parent. And if you guys are aware of Pia Melody's work, one of the leading voices in codependence recovery, she describes, enmeshment as a form of emotional incest where the child is denied the right to grow up separate from the parent. You're forbidden to individuate. You're forbidden to become your own unique separate self. You are a part of me. Yeah, all the boundaries are blurred. You are a part of me. You are never allowed to become a separate individual. And again, this is not closeness. Nowhere close to closeness. This is pure control disguised as intimacy. And these folks, these narcissistic parents, they are very good in faking things. They are very good in projection. They are very good in building, a false facade. They like, presenting themselves as one of the greatest parent on this, planet. But in reality, they are the worst one. They are such a parent, who literally destroy you, from the day you are born. Yeah, they might be doing the bare minimum, but on an emotional level, psychological level, spiritual level, they drain and deplete you. They destroy you for life. Now, let us understand why narcissistic parents enmesh. In the context of narcissistic parenting, enmeshment becomes a weapon. Narcissistic parents see their children as extension of themselves and nothing else, not as separate individual, separate entity, no, as an extension of themselves. So your autonomy literally threatens their control. So in order to neutralize that threat, I mean, you being autonomous, you being, exercising your own autonomy, it's like a red flag. So how do these narcissistic parents neutralize that threat? Yeah, they perceive it as threat. In reality, you are just being you are human, and that's, the way how we all develop and evolve and grow. But they perceive it as a threat. And how do they neutralize that threat? They pull you close. They pull you more towards themselves, and it's again not out of love but out of emotional dependency. Yeah. And how do they do that? How do they establish that? How do they pull you? How do they reel you back? How do they enmesh you? They will start confiding in you about adult problems. You are a kid, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, the mother is going to talk about her financial problem, her problem with her husband, and this and that. They are going to expect you to comfort them after conflict with a partner. So you need to be their coach and therapist and listen to them, whatever nonsense they have to speak, and pacify them and tell them everything is going to be okay. These narcissistic parents are going to express jealousy, towards any relationship that you get into, whether it's a classmate, friend, or any love or friendship. They will express jealousy. They will, get jealous, when they see you spending time with the others, because they don't want you to have healthy sources of validation, love, and affection. They just want you to be crippled and solely dependent on them. Yeah. These narcissistic parents are going to guilt trip you, for seeking independence. And that's how they reel you back in. That's how they, enmesh you. So if you try and outgrow them, or if you try and exercise your autonomy, or if you try and be independent, think independently, or do things independently, then they are going to guilt trip you. After all, all the things that I have done for you, this is what I get in return. You hardly care about me. You don't even ask me. You are a grown-up man now who needs, his old mother, her old parent. I mean, who needs, parents? You know everything. So they are going to guilt trip you. They are going to gaslight you. The other way these narcissistic parents enmesh you is by telling you that you are their everything. I stayed in this relationship just for the sake of you. You are my everything. I don't have anything else apart from you. You are everything. You are the universe. You are my life. You are everything. Yeah. So, that is a kind of a red flag that we ignore, and we are trained to ignore. We are trained to view it as closeness and, pure love. But these are red flags. Yeah. When someone tells you you are my everything, yeah, it's a red flag. Whether it's a love relationship, it's a narcissistic, parent and child relationship, it's a red flag. It's solely to enmesh you. And to tell you honestly, all of this, that I have mentioned, the different ways how they enmesh you, this is nowhere close to love. It's pure emotional colonization. It is what a covert abuse looks like. And to tell you honestly, all of the things that I described, the different ways they enmesh their children, it's nowhere close to love. It's pure emotional colonization. And that is what covert abuse looks like and feels like. Yeah. Now, let us understand what psychological impact of pathological enmeshment is, what it looks like. So, when children are raised in enmeshed systems, they often struggle with, chronic guilt, anxiety, a collapsed sense of self, difficulty, setting boundaries, or difficulty saying no, feeling guilty, feel obligated. They have a lot of confusion around their very own identity. They fear abandonment. They are scared of being abandoned or being alone. They are big time into people pleasing, and they experience what I call hyper responsibility. They feel that they are responsible for every fucking thing on this planet. Yeah. From their parents' problem, from their grandparents' problem, they are hyper responsible for anything and everything. And in majority of the cases, it's the toxic family, the narcissistic parent. You literally, I mean, when you are raised by narcissistic parents, and when you have been enmeshed, you literally grow up believing that your value lies in how well you serve others, how well you serve your parent, how well you serve your family, yeah, how well you please them, how well you make them happy, yeah, and not in what you are or what you want to do, yeah, or what you feel like. No, it's all about them. So you grow up genuinely believing that your worth, your value lies in the things that you do for them. The best possible way you are able to serve them, that is your worth. And this is what Dr. Salvador also, pointed out. I mean, the founder of structural family therapy. He pointed out that in enmeshed families, roles are blurred because there is no boundary. Boundary is an abomination. So the roles are blurred. Everything is into each other. Everything is enmeshed. The child takes an adult responsibility while the adult offloads their emotional regulation onto the child. It becomes the child's responsibility to fix me. It becomes the child's responsibility to regulate me. I'm not going to do anything now. My child is going to sort out my problem. My child is going to fix me and do things for me. And to tell you honestly, this role reversal is not just dysfunctional. Let's be clear. It's, you know, developmentally, traumatizing, for the child. He's stunted for life. He's, handicapped for life. Yeah. Now, let us understand and compare, enmeshment versus healthy attachment. So, before we dive deep, let's be clear that closeness and enmeshment are not the same thing. No matter, who tells you that they are the same thing, it's not. It's absolutely different. In healthy families, love has boundaries. Children are allowed to grow, have their boundaries in place, be themselves. The kids' emotions are respected. But when we look at enmeshed families, narcissistic families, love is conditional, emotions are manipulated. And, overall, if you see, every time anyone, who wants to uh, access and use their autonomy, that person is not spared. That person is disciplined by being punished. Yeah, that's a common thing. All of this, in a way, literally destroys, the kid's capacity, the child's capacity to develop a stable sense of self. They are never able to develop that. Instead of discovering who they genuinely are, they learn to be what their parent needs and wants. I mean, it's horrible. Rather than exploring themselves, rather than evolving and discovering who they are, they, learn that they need to be who their parent wants them to be. Yeah. Now, you guys must be wondering, what is the role of emotional incest? So, emotional incest is a term coined to describe when a parent uses their child to meet, emotional needs normally fulfilled by another adult. And, you know, it's been beautifully described by, psychologist Dr. Kenneth Adams. And, he's written about this in his book, Silently Seduced, where he explains how emotional incest, causes identity diffusion, intimacy issues, and deep rooted shame. So when a narcissistic parent says things like, "You are the only one who understands me. I don't know what I would do without you. You are my reason for living." They are not nurturing you, they are not loving you. They are just manipulating you. They are making them, responsible for their emotional survival. I mean, they are making their kid responsible for their very own emotional survival. And this is pure emotional manipulation. Yeah, and this is what emotional incest is. So a lot of people, assume that emotional incest happens only between opposite gender parent child pair. But, if you deep dive and if you, read the different research and, the different, papers that are out there, they absolutely, tell you something which is otherwise. So, a narcissistic mother may enmesh with her daughter, treating her as a best friend, as a confidant. Yeah. And what this does is that this, in a way, undermines her autonomy from developing. Yeah. And all of it is, again, disguised as, closeness, love, affection, mother daughter. They are just like best friends. But that's a red flag. And in the case of a narcissistic father, the narcissistic father may, bond with the son in a way that excludes, others, demanding utmost loyalty, and also, in various ways, using the child, yeah, as an emotional surrogate against the other parent. Yeah, so these folks are entitled individuals. They lack empathy. They just don't care what they are doing with their children. Yeah. And to add more clarity, emotional incest doesn't occur only between a mother and a son, or a father and a daughter. It can occur between a narcissistic mother and her daughter, a narcissistic father and his son also. So it's with same gender as well. It's not always the opposite one. That's what enmeshment is. Enmeshment is not about gender. It's about, control and pure emotional dependency. Yeah. So what happens to the child? When you are a victim of emotional incest, when you are enmeshed with your narcissistic parent, you may grow up to, confuse love with obligation. That's a common one. Feel guilty for setting boundaries or saying no. Become hyper attuned to others' needs and not prioritize your own needs. Lose your sense of identity. Yeah. Just get into random trauma bonded relationships. You might also experience, shame, self abandonment, and emotional confusion. That's quite a common one. Because you need to understand, your entire selfhood was hijacked since childhood by your narcissistic parent. You were never allowed to grow. You were stunted by your narcissistic parents. You were never allowed to exist for yourself. You were trained and groomed to exist for them, to serve them, to please them. And as Dr. Murray, Bowen, founder of Bowen family system theory, stated that, differentiation of self is the cornerstone of emotional maturity. So emotional incest, enmeshment arrests the differentiation. Yeah, it keeps you emotionally fused to the parent long after you have grown up. You are unable to differentiate. You are unable to, disengage and develop your own self. Yeah, you're just fused, you're just enmeshed. And even you grow up, you're an adult, or maybe you are an old person, you are still, fixated onto your parents' emotions, their needs, wants, and requirements. You are unable to outgrow, you are unable to develop in an individual way, in a normal way, the way how you grow and develop in healthy families. So if you guys are having moments, where you realize that I was never loved, I was used, please understand that awareness is not to make you feel, that you are betrayed. Of course you are betrayed, but awareness is not about betrayal. It's about the truth, giving you the truth so that you have radical acceptance. You see the things, the way it is. And it's not the kid's job to fix, their parents problem. A kid is not born or brought in this world, to regulate someone else's emotion, to serve someone else's agenda. No, you are, allowed to be separate, sovereign, and free. You are allowed to be you. You don't have to fix others. You can focus on yourself. You can prioritize yourself. So yes, if this resonated with you, I would request you all to subscribe this channel, and I keep uploading, videos, on narcissistic parents, narcissistic abuse, and healing from all those hidden wounds and trauma. So yes, until next time, please take care of yourself and just, take back the control. It's never too late. You're perfect. And your first responsibility is you, yourself, and not the others. First is you, then your chosen family, the family that you have started. That's it. You don't owe anything to your parent. Please remember that. So yes, take care of yourself. Lots of love and blessings to all of you. Bye.